From Southern California, this is The Circle of Insight, a show about everything in psychology. Hear the latest in news and views on psychology. Our motto is simple: wherever there is psychology involved, we are there. And now, here's your host of The Circle of Insight, Carlos Vasquez.
Thank you for joining us again. My name is Carlos Vasquez, doctoral candidate in psychology and the host of Circle of Insight, where we discuss the topics you have chosen with leading experts. Our motto is, wherever there's psychology involved, we will be there. Today we're going to continue our year-long series on the psychology of religion. We have our special guest, Ruben Mata. Thank you so much, Ruben, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Ruben Mata has been sharing his passion of personal development for more than 7 years and has been an international speaker for about a half a decade. He just came back from a trip from South Korea, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Good. He wouldn't come back if it was North Korea. As a master trainer, success coach, author, and expert in success mindset, Ruben shows and teaches his audiences how to create a new mindset around success, prosperity, wealth, and abundance. And today we're going to push Ruben a little bit as we're going to explore spirituality and find out what it means and what he thinks religion means as we continue our journey through the psychology of religion. Well, Ruben, first things first. We know we have religion and we have spirituality. We know there's two different things. Religion seems to involve a lot more, how would you say, rituals, things we have to do. I know we explored this last time with a psychologist. As we looked at religion, it seems to provide structure for people and comfort. Right? When you pray, when you go to church, it gives you some security, something that you're not alone in this world. Now, you had a very interesting definition of religion. Now, what is that?
Religion, I feel when we're discussing it, is the beliefs one has, that organization has, as far as if you're involved with us, these are the guidelines as far as religion. And some have, some are positive, and there's some other religions that are not so positive. And I feel the basis of religions are showing the individuals of being better than you were the day before, and always treating people like you want to be treated. So that's what I feel religion is.
And you also said you thought religion was kind of like a relationship.
Yeah, I feel that it is. A lot of people say, don't be so religious, because a lot of people use the guidelines or to direct people in a certain direction, to take them and to move them into a space. But I feel the basis is relationship more than religion, because that deals with one individual, which is self.
Interesting. Now, I know you do a lot of motivational speaking. You help people find purpose in their life and find direction. Do you think religion is a help, or is it a negative?
I feel it's a help. If it's positive, it's a help. Great. If a lot of people need direction, right? We all need direction. Let's say not a lot of people, but depending on where one is at in life, they need to plug into a system, because I feel the environment will create their behavior, right? And once that behavior is, like the 6 layers, it creates their potential and what they could be in life, right? Which affects their belief system, which is if they are involved in that and they buy into what that organization is offering, then their beliefs are going to be that, which are their values that go up, and creates their identity. So whoever or whatever that religion is and calls themselves, they will identify with that organization.
Now, that's an interesting thing, because I know you're an expert on beliefs and how we create our beliefs. Let me see how I can phrase this properly. How do you think people get into certain religions? Do you think their belief systems, because I know our belief systems are like our glasses. We get to see things through them. And do you think a lot of times they choose their religion because of their beliefs, or do you think religion may influence beliefs, or both? I don't know.
It depends. Like, what makes them feel good, what fills their needs, because there's the 6 human needs. And if one of them is validation, then if they go to this organization, it makes them feel good emotionally, spiritually, and it fills them up, that need that they're needing filled, then they will go through that and tap into that, plug into that system, so to speak, or social proof that,
So it could be an unconscious need that they're fulfilling by going to that religion.
Right, because that's where one goes. They go to a higher source to get that void filled. So whatever that higher source is, if it's religion, spirituality, is it source, is it, higher power, is it the universe, whatever that may be, if they find that in that organization and it makes them feel warm, fuzzy, and makes them have more confidence and self-esteem and feel, as I would say, backed up or supported by that organization, I feel that a lot of people will stay there.
Very good point.
Thank you.
That's one of the things we're looking for in religion is trying to figure out why people go there. Because we know a lot of studies have shown, some people go to religion because their parents were part of that religion.
Right.
Sometimes they go to a different religion because their parents are not part of that religion. So we're always looking to see why are they going that way. Spirituality is a little different. I think, I know if you define religion, it's more of a collective group using rituals to be able to connect with God, as you said earlier, which is a great point, a relationship with God. Some people use religion to develop that relationship. Spirituality is more of a personal thing. It's idiosyncratic. It's individualized. How we relate to God individually, how we pray. Can you tell me a little bit about how you see spirituality helping people to motivate them?
I feel it gives them hope.
Hope.
I feel it gives them hope. It gives them something to look for. Because a lot of times we get stuck in our own comfort zone, our own zone of we distance ourselves because a lot of times we don't like change. And if we go to a place that we get comfort and refuge, that's all it is looking for a place that gives one refuge and it's positive. It's like more power to you. Because like you said, a lot of people are grown up in a certain, with rituals and beliefs. And if they are not receiving that there and they go to another organization that gives them that, right? And is it right or wrong to stay where you're not getting full just to please somebody else? Like your family, right? And if one loves you and believes in you, then more power to you when they see you becoming a better person because you're involved with this organization. So a lot of it could be pride. A lot of it could be an inability to accept change in others.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's it. Because it's a generational thing, because my parents were this way, I should be this way, but I feel better this way going over here, and what will they say? But when one puts all their trust and faith in their God, that all will work out exactly how it's supposed to. Maybe there's a process that one has to learn, that the family has to learn by you going through this other organization.
That's a good point.
See, there's a learning in everything that happens in our lives.
So religion, when you do you said you have your 6 steps of belief, I think you said, if I can remember correctly.
6 layers.
6 layers.
6 layers, to our identity.
Is there spirituality anywhere in those 6 layers?
You could go, there's a higher power, the higher source. Because we have the conscious, subconscious, and a higher conscious. Okay. This is the whole different part as far as being able to connect with source, right? Because we have the subconscious is the one that we store all our memories and our beliefs, everything we've been programmed to. The conscious mind is the little voice that we hear, that what will they say? You don't have to go to work. It's all right. You did a good job this week. Take a break. That's the voice that controls us. That talks to the subconscious. And then there's a higher conscious, the one that we get into when we pray, when we really connect with the higher source, which is God, whatever that source may be for you.
Now that's kind of a
that's
tough
a higher
one too,
conscious.
because we have I know you've had an experience, which you've told us before,
yes.
And that was the higher conscious communicating.
Correct.
Is there any kind of way to distinguish between our conscious mind and the higher conscious? Is there a defining line between those two?
Yes, because the conscious mind is where we're at, where we're at as far as environment, the room. It's hot, it's cold. That's what adjusts us. That's the CEO of who we are. That directs the subconscious mind, are the workers. They just need to be told what to do. The subconscious mind, they just say, tell me what to do and we'll do it. It's that little voice is the one that keeps them limited or it empowers them.
That's a great example.
Right. So the workers are saying, hey, we're supposed to take the day off because he had a tough day yesterday. Okay, so they just hang out.
So who's the higher conscious? Is that like the IRS, the government?
That's where we get all our beliefs, what we're programmed with as a child, as far as what religion is and to us and how we should be. That's the one that's really the one we go to, so to speak.
Interesting. So that's a different one that implants not implants, but gives us memories or
the subconscious mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the higher conscious.
I feel that's to connect to source.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So spirituality, very interesting.
Because it's when one is in prayer, and like when I go in prayer, and when I was in South Korea, I was in my room, and I share this with not many people, and I was asking, why do you have me here? And it's like, who is this? It's God who I was talking to, right? And it broke me down, and it's like, what's going on? Why do you have me here? I started crying. I was on my knees, like, what is it? And I could not get to that state in the conscious mind. Because I'll be like, what are you doing on your knees crying, right?
Yeah.
But you're not consciously aware of what you're doing because you're connected fully with the higher conscious.
Got it.
Yeah,
You're
there's something.
almost out of mind in a sense. You're
Correct,
in a different
because the
world.
out of body experience. Because when one prays and you're connected, you're not worried about who walks in. You're not worried, consciously aware of who's looking at you, of when your hands are raised up or however you pray, right? If we're at church or we're at a building or an event,
Gotcha.
right? So that means you're not consciously aware of what's going on because you're so connected with higher source.
And that's funny that Ruben mentions that because there are different alpha waves in your brain. Not alpha waves, there are different waves that go through your brain, electromagnetic waves. Beta is when we're hyper vigilant. When something happens, we're always looking around.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha is a little bit more of the conscious state, like we're at right now. Theta is another waves degree. My wife usually calls me in the theta sense, which you're kind of out of it. And then you go more to the spiritual sense, which I think is part of the delta. If I remember correctly, the delta wave.
Okay,
more of an
yeah.
unconscious thing. That's really intriguing. There are some scientific studies to that when they've explored the brain during spirituality moments.
Right.
So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And we do, and I know in your training, you're always accessing the unconscious mind, trying to guide it and gear it.
Correct, yes.
And we're at a different wavelength again for that. I think it's the theta wavelength. We're more of a, not a hypnotic state. It's similar to a hypnotic state, I guess they call it the theta wave. In psychology, that's called the hypnagogic and hypnopompic states. Hypnagogic means when you're at night and you're kind of falling asleep and you're not quite asleep and you're not quite awake and all of a sudden you hallucinate or you see something you thought you saw and you didn't. You're kind of this hypnotic state. And so I wonder, in spirituality, we get to those states a lot.
Yes.
It seems like a direct access to our unconscious mind, or even better to give it messages, I guess.
Right.
Do you do that at all in your training, and not necessarily hypnosis, but in the sense of trying to get people to really listen and be able to direct their unconscious mind?
Yes, because when we do visualizations, I just had an event this weekend. It was a speaker training event. So, and it was, we go through systems because we go through these type of systems to reprogram them from removing their limited beliefs that make them nervous. That it could have been something that happened when they were a child. So we remove those. But in order to get that, all change happens in the unconscious. All change. And to get to the unconscious, you need to remove the conscious mind where you go into, take a deep breath in, you just go into a certain state. That way we could start reprogramming them into another position and remove all those limited beliefs of finding the root cause of them.
This is going to be an interesting. You made me think about something here, and hopefully I don't get too lost in my own thought here. But so when we
Very
pray,
interesting. Yes.
right, we pray to God. You had your moments. We were really
Yes.
close to God, and then we change because of God, for whatever reason. Maybe it was certain habits we've done, certain
Right.
lifestyles. Do you think that's almost like same thing as you did, reprogramming the unconscious, but maybe God is reprogramming your unconscious through that prayer? For instance, like, I'll give you an example.
That's good.
I smoked too much, I drank too much, and now all of a sudden God says, hey, pal, as you mentioned in your past life, this is not your life, it's my life.
Right.
And then they automatically just re-kick their unconscious and say, I got to reboot and change what I'm doing. So I
Right.
think God's almost like a master coach.
Yeah, he's the master practitioner. He's the NLP master practitioner because he's getting us into a state. We are into that state, however we got there, of a state of, you know what, I'm done, it's over, bottom, whatever one calls that. And who we're going to is the success coach or the master coach. And he's giving us information to download.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Right? So he's downloading, here's some information for you. Now we come back to now, and it's like, wow. Because a lot of times it's coming to the point where I'm at the end of my road. For us to be able to understand that, hey, change needs to happen, right? Because we justify a lot of our actions with the conscious mind that it's okay, it's not, it's only for a time being, and we buy into this story, so we're buying into that lifestyle of mediocrity or addiction or hurting others or whatever comes with included with that addiction.
Yes.
So now once your road comes to an end, it's like, where else do I got to turn to? So then a lot of people start praying or they, ask for help, and all of a sudden they get out of their conscious mind, they're in a subconscious state, and that's when a lot of people go back to what they were programmed as a child is, hey, we do have a God Hey, remember? And it's like,
Yeah.
right, my mom told me that. Or my dad told me, my sister used to do that, or my brother, or my uncle. They used to always pray to that person that's on the cross or something. They go something that, because they're in a place looking for refuge or need. So if they go into that, like he says, call on me, I'll respond. I'll show you great and marvelous things you're unaware of. Right? Jeremiah 33:3, where I was the fork in the road in my life when all that was taking place, where I went to the higher power, where I said, hey, Ruben, remember what your mom and dad always showed you when you were a kid? You did that, and where did that go? Where did you forget that? And when one forgets something that's helping them, they start going into another lifestyle, and their whole identity changes, and their beliefs and their values and their behavior, right? So I believe the master, as you're the master practitioner, the master programmer is God. We just need to get into that state of being programmable.
Hi, welcome to Adelante. This is Adelante Recovery, and my name is Yvette Kuglin, and I'm part of the staff.
Adelante Recovery Center has helped people in dual diagnosis for 5 years. We accept most PPO insurances and provide luxury accommodations and 24-hour support. To speak with an admissions counselor, call 1-888-242-4450.
A lot of time we don't even know what's wrong with us, and sometimes we need to get away to figure that out. So if you want to go for a little retreat out in Corona Del Mar, which is a confidential location, we're here to help. So we're only a phone call away. Thank you.
I've heard this word a couple times from you here, and it seems like it's an important part of human nature, and it's the part of refuge. You've said that a couple times now. It looks like a lot of people look to God, look to spirituality for a place of refuge. So that, to me, makes me think that religion is maybe, in a sense of utility, it provides comfort, it provides a coping ability, a coping skill in a sense, and it provides that refuge. Do you think that's true? Do you think it provides that necessary place of safety?
I believe so, because it's an organization that's accepting, right? Because a lot of people, when they go seek refuge, they're in a place of need. They need to be fulfilled of something.
And do you think that's a human trait, like trying to get spirituality provides that comfort? You think we all need that?
Yeah, because it's a higher power, something other than us.
Other than us, yeah.
Right, it's something outside of us that's going to help us. Because like Einstein says, you can't come up with the solution. The same mindset the problem was created. And like Les Brown, when he says, you can't adjust the picture when you're in the frame. Right? So a lot of times we need to get outside of ourselves. That's why it's good we could give advice to others. That's, oh my God, that they're going through the same stuff we're going through. We give them great advice, exactly what to do, but we don't do it ourselves. Because it's ourselves, right?
That's very true. That's a good point. We're going to go again to another philosophical turn as we continue to change the way he does these things into a philosophical way. We're going to look at it through a philosophical lens. A lot of people are motivated by pain or pleasure.
Correct.
We know that. People avoid pain, right? Or they go towards pleasure. So the concept that struck me was heaven and hell.
Okay.
A lot of religions, and we know some of them preach hell quite a bit.
Right.
In the old days, especially a couple hundred years ago, people avoided it by following rules.
Right.
And then people seek heaven. Now, do you think those are motivating techniques for people? Have you seen that, where they do certain things because, I got to go to heaven, or I got to get out of hell?
Well, that's an important point. Because we do away motivation and towards motivation. And now that you brought that up, it's the same way. Because a lot of people are spiritual, right? When they're going towards, we'll say, hell, which is destruction, right? I feel. So if they're closer to destruction, where they're losing a lot, they're drinking a lot, they're calling in sick to work, they're losing their family, all these other things, the doors are closing, and they're getting closer to that. So it's like, hey, I need to get spiritual. So then they start going to church, and they're moving away from all that destruction, right? And they're moving away, and it's like, I'm okay, I'm going there, I'm spiritually right now. And then all of a sudden they fall back into the least path of resistance, and they go back into what they used to be. So they start moving away from what used to help them closer to destruction again. And they're like, I'm too close. I need to get spiritual again. So that's that yo-yo spirituality or relationship that one has with God.
Yeah.
Now, when they're motivated by good, blessings, God, spirituality, and that's their focus, they're going to move more in a consistent pattern towards that because they're reaching that. They're going for that. There's not that I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. It's just going, I'm going to obtain that. So that's more of a consistent direction and motivation of being spiritual.
So, not to get too theological, but it sounds a little bit like the sin nature argument.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have sin in our hearts, and so we gravitate towards sin, and we have to struggle towards get to
Right.
a better place. So that's kind of the same.
Yeah, they say the battle of the flesh continues.
Yes.
And it's
there you
that
go.
one, we're made of, flesh and bone. And it's like what we've been programmed or what we believe, right? So a lot of times it's like whatever we step away from, we're just going to become more of what we're plugging into.
Oh, Geigo, right?
Yeah, so whatever.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Right, so whatever, like it says, either you are or you're not. You're either with me or you're not.
That's right.
It's like one professes to be wise, but yet is a fool when he speaks like he is wise.
Very true. Very true.
So there's a lot of ways to go about it, but and even in personal development, when Zig Ziglar says his number one source for material was the Bible, the book of Proverbs.
Oh, really?
And John Maxwell as well. He says he relates a lot of the basis of his material is Bible based.
That's interesting. One of the things, too, we always warn people on the psychology of religion, we're not advocating any position here. Sometimes it sounds like we're portraying religion or spirituality as a utility or a function. But we're looking at it in a very comprehensive manner. So we're going to look at it in different takes.
Right.
So right now we looked at it through psychology, and now we're looking at it through Ruben's lenses right here through motivation and belief systems. And so once again, we don't advocate either position. We're just looking at it through different lenses, and hopefully that'll bring insight to you. That's great. So yeah, it's very true. We do get a lot of stuff from the Bible. The Bible shows us a lot of information. It seems to have a lot of words of wisdom that can help us to motivate us. Do you use the Bible at all?
Yes.
You do? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And this is one of the reasons when I was speaking to the lady who, before being invited to Korea, to the World Peace Summit, and she says, how do you incorporate, the spirituality with your personal development trainings? I said, well, there's that line. You don't want to blur the boundaries, but who you're speaking with and who your audience is, you're able to calibrate and to adjust accordingly to what the message is that you originally prepared. And if there's opportunity, great, we could share a spiritual message in there as well, if there's opportunity. So then we're able, and I was sharing with her several of my speeches or talks that I give, and that's what really opened up the opportunity to go to Korea, plus the endorsements and everything that I have with the Senate.
That was a wonderful trip.
Yeah, so that was something where understanding that using God's ability that he's given me through his material, the Bible, and structuring up a nice presentation, event, a message, there's always room for opportunity when the doors he opens, I'm allowed to go through. So,
And that's an interesting thing. Now that you point that out. I know in Christianity, in certain parts of Christianity, there's a lot of versions of Christianity out there. But I know the ones I'm more familiar with, a lot of times say, give your life over to God. Mm-hmm. Let him direct your life. And that seems to be really calming to humans, right? For us, it's relaxing. It takes pressure and responsibility off of us. We've given it to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And it helps us kind of, I would say, stay focused. What do you think about that rule or that concept of just giving it over to God? What kind of benefits do we get out of that?
I say giving it over to God, like I say, walk by faith, not by sight, right? It's like allowing yourself, it's like define what you want, right? Focus on what you need to do, but allow the process to happen. And a lot of times when we say give it over to God, right? Give your life over to God, it's like, it's that faith. It's like, who am I giving it over to, right? Yeah. Is he going to direct me in the right way? And once having that belief and all the understandings that he's going to have it turn out exactly how it's supposed to for your benefit. Maybe you may not see it at that moment, but a year or 2 or 3 years or maybe even 7 years down the road, you're going to see it and say, wow, now I understand that it was him moving the pieces and not me, because I gave my life to him to direct. Because a lot of people are in destruction because when I was going through my challenges, and in 1996, I was doing what Ruben wanted to. I was directing my own life. I gave my life over to me, and I was ready to end it. And that's when God steps in and says, wait a minute, time out, young man, right? So to speak, it's like, this ain't your life to take. It's like, wait a minute, So he got in there, and he says, hey, stand up. That's where the book came in, right?
Here's book stand.
That was inspired there, and that's where I went forward and said, okay, now you direct me. You drive my vehicle, which is me, because I already wrecked it, and I was ready to send it to the junkyard. Right? So now he's driving, and it's opening a lot of doors. Not saying that there's not challenges in my life, but I understand that there's nothing greater that I will encounter that he will not get me through. Because the scripture says, greater is he who is in me and is in you than he who is in the world. And once believing that wholeheartedly with confidence, it's like, yeah, there's that. Bring it on. What's the worst that can happen?
So the challenge is now, whatever challenge you have, you know God's there behind you
Right.
to help you out. So it's never big more than you can handle.
No, and there's times where in situations where I'm asked to go speak to, the parolees who just get out from doing 5 to 40 years. And it's like, what am I going to tell him? And he says, that's why I had you go through all that stuff when you're in the neighborhood, getting shot at, drive-bys, doing all these things, right, that you overcame. So when it's time for me to take you there, you will have the confidence and the understanding and the words to be empathetic with them and to be okay. Because I was going over there and I was like, okay, whoa, what's going on here? It's like in Compton, right? And it's like, okay, but that's where I used that, allow me to drive. I turned it over to him, right? And I understood it was more of a spiritual battle than the battle of flesh.
And that's where faith really comes in.
Yeah, because there was some stuff that I seen where it's like, they say he hates the sin, not the sinner. And sometimes you see what dwells in certain individuals, and it's
Can you
it's
find me a different training ground, God? I know.
Yeah, turn to your neighbor, give a high five, tell them they're awesome. Give me one of those, rah, right? But it was different, but it was a learning experience. And it's like, once overcoming that, it's like, what other arena will you allow me to get into? Because I do the youth detention ministry. And then we feed the homeless every Tuesday in downtown Santa Ana.
That's a wonderful program.
Right. And we got a write-up in the Register. We did a couple TV programs. Yeah. So all these things, it's like, and that was the message I received in Korea when he says, keep on doing what you're doing to the less fortunate back in the United States. I have more of this for you. This is something that I wanted to bring you here so you could see yourself. He says, don't worry about the income, the money. Don't worry about that. I have that covered. Just help the less fortunate of my people. And I was like, cool. So I was like, all right. I mean, that was what, but it was that I needed some clarity. Yeah. And I talked to him like a friend. It's like, hey, what's going on? Hey, you know where I'm at. I need some clarity. And then it all of a sudden started breaking it down, and I was just quebrantado. I mean, broken down. It was great once I got up. It was great.
And that's an interesting point you just made, because a lot of people, when they talk to God, and we won't get too much into it due to lack of time, but everybody has a different relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Some people view him as their father. Right. But everybody has different fathers. Mm-hmm. So different relationships there. Now, your version of your belief in your God, which is a Christian God, but how do you think of God? What kind of traits do you see him having?
I feel like one who's very confident, one who knows everything, and still a friend. Because when I go into my state and state of prayer, right, it's seeing him, in a robe and sandals, and sometimes he'll just have that look, when I know I'm not right and going through challenges, and he'll just have this look like, you know what's gonna happen, or it's like you just still don't get it. Right, and times where he comes in and we have that hug and that comfort. I find refuge in him and just listen and wait to hear the message he wants to give me. Right, so that's the relationship I have. That says, hey God, you know where I'm at.
So he's like almost the ideal parent.
Right, with the discipline where I understand, hey, the fear of of wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is fear, and it's not the fear like he's gonna beat me up. It's just the fear of out of respect. Like it's like the respect you have for, our elders.
Sure.
And there's a respect that I have for them. Like, hey, do what you do. I know, like you say, there's consequences for everything we do. If we fall into temptation, we're not going to get paid. We're going to pay, right? And we resist that, then we get paid and we get blessed. So there's consequences for everything we do in our life. Either we pay or we get paid.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. I think that's in chapter, I think that's in week 14. So there's a lot of good information in here. So.
And we'll talk about that in a second as well. Once again, thank you so much, Ruben, for coming.
You're very welcome.
Spirituality is a complex thing. It's very personal, as we noticed, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be a long series, but a lot of good insight to how to see God. And a lot of people look at God differently.
Right.
I mean, Ruben's got his way he looks at God. A lot of Christians look at God the same way. A lot of other people don't. And that's what we're going to explore to find out all these different versions of God. If you want to learn more about Ruben, there it is, his book, Stand. It's a wonderful book by Ruben Mata. And I think your website is
RubenMata.com.
RubenMata.com.
And it comes in Espanol también.
Oh, in Spanish as
Yeah,
well.
levántate.
So for those, if you want help, if you want spiritual guidance, if you want motivation, this is the book. It gives you a lot of goal-setting techniques, keeps you focused, keeps you motivated all the way through. You can also find out where he's speaking next on his website, if I remember correctly. Yep, RubenMata.com.
There you go.
We're going to continue on with the series of Psychology of Religion in the upcoming weeks as we have priests, religious scholars, rabbis, Muslim clerics, everybody giving us a different version of where we're going to go. As the old saying goes, Quo vadis, where are you going? As Peter asked Jesus on the path to Jerusalem. We thank you so much for joining us at the Circle of Insight. We'll see you next time.